This morning I'm going to do a one-off sermon, really. Friday night we had our AGM. So this morning I thought I'd talk about the church, where we're at and where we're going, or where we've been and where we're going. Now, I'm very aware that, especially for those of you here on Friday night, some of this will be kind of repetitive because you've heard a lot of this before. But I'm just aware that there's a lot of new people in the church, a lot of people who don't know where the church has come from, and not aware of some of the things that we've been talking about in terms of our future and our direction. And so I thought this morning it would be good for us to both celebrate some of the things that have happened in our past. I find it always fascinating to look back and see how God's led us. You know, sometimes you struggle through things, and sometimes it's not until you look back you appreciate how you realize and you see God's hand on things. I want us this morning to look back on some of the things that have happened in order for us just to celebrate those. But I also want to kind of press some buttons this morning and say, let's get excited about some of the things that are happening and are going to happen in the future. One of the things that God told the people of Israel to do in the Old Testament was that they were not to forget what God's done in the past. They were, in fact, a lot of the festivals, God told them to celebrate the festivals every year in order to remember those key points in their history about where God intervened. And He did something in order to take them on or to redeem them. And so they were kind of remembering events from the past. So I just want to read some verses from Psalm 105, which is one of those long psalms. But it starts off by giving thanks to God for the things that He's done. And then it goes on for 43 verses recounting all the past things that God has done and the way He's redeemed the people in order to celebrate the past and remember the things of the past. Give thanks to the Lord. Call on His name and make known His name among the nations and what He has done. Sing to Him. Sing praise to Him. That's what we've been doing this morning. You know. Tell of all His wonderful acts. Glory in His holy name, and let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Look to the Lord and His strength, and seek His face always. Remember the wonders He has done, His miracles, the judgments He pronounced. O descendants of Abraham, His servant. O children of Jacob, His chosen ones. He is the Lord our God, and His judgments are in all the earth. And then it goes on to go back and remember all of the events of the past and all the things that God has done. When you come to Psalm 106, it's the same. It's another long psalm, 48 verses. Starts off, praise the Lord, give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His love endures forever, and we sang about that this morning. Who can proclaim the mighty acts of the Lord, or fully declare His praise? And then it goes on again to talk about God's intervening amongst His people, the way He redeemed them and brought them out of Egypt. And it recounts again those points through history. And actually, when you look at the Psalms, it's amazing the number of Psalms that does this. They recount the past to look at the good things of the past. So I want to just do a brief overall view and have a look at where we've come from. In June 2003, I came to this church and started off in this church. And I've often said, you know, the word that God gave to me when I came to this church was one word, and it was the word fit. And that was just such a prophetic word for me. I didn't realize it when God gave that to me, but it was very true from virtually day one. It's like Diane and I just felt God fitted us into this place. And God's hand of favor and blessing has been on this last 7 years. My favorite verse over this last 7 years is from Nehemiah chapter 2, where Nehemiah said, the gracious hand of my God is upon me. And we can say as a church, the gracious hand of my God, our God, is upon us. And that's my favourite verse, because it just keeps on popping into my mind. You know, God's hand of blessing and favour. I've got a few pictures and graphs this morning just to remind you of some of our history events. Here's a graph of our adult attendance over the last 7 years. Growing from 2003, where average adult attendance was 129, up to 295 this year. So you can see just that steady growth that we've had over the last 7 years. The next one, it breaks down a wee bit. 2003, it gives us the morning attendance figures, the average over the whole year. That's the kind of even holiday times, like this morning. The number's down a bit, but that's the average. 2006, we had 218 adults, 34 teens, and 85 children. This year, our average numbers were 295 adults, 27 teens, and 107 children. So it's been fantastic, just this ongoing growth that we've seen. And I was just projecting ahead that the last 5 years, since 2006, we've grown annually of 7% each year, 35% growth. If we project that out the next 5 years, and if God keeps his hand of favour and blessing on us and leads us so that we keep on growing at the same rate, we're looking at something like 400 adults here in our morning services in 5 years' time. I think that's quite exciting to kind of say, God, keep on going, you know, help us grow, you know, and reaching people for the kingdom. When I first arrived at the church here, I felt very convinced and convicted that what we needed to start off with was to emphasise and put a lot of focus on our children's ministry and our youth ministry. Now, some people didn't always like us doing that, but I felt that was really important that we did that. So we brought on board Pauline Shaw. Pauline came on as our first part-time paid children's worker. And I don't know whether you can see Pauline she's holding up a hoop, and she's in the middle there. You can still, we couldn't find a good picture of her actually. But anyway, that goes back to Pauline's day. And Pauline did a fantastic job. We had that huge growth spurt in those first 3 years. And she also started up the Pumpkin Party. I don't know whether you still remember those early days with Pumpkin Party and just how they started blossoming, and they've become a huge blessing for us as a church, just in all the context that has given us out in the community. And that was 2006, all those people that came. Last year we had 1,000 kids here in Pumpkin Party. And so in a month's time, we're having Pumpkin Party on the Sunday evening, October 31st, Halloween night. And so all hands on deck, everybody, because this year it's going to be even bigger. You know, so just we need everybody on board for that. But that was, you know, a good start for us, really, that Pumpkin Party. One of the key growth factors in the church, I believe, for us, was that we had emphasised the importance of children's ministry and young people. And there are a lot of you, probably not so many here this morning, but young parents who heard about FBC and the children's ministry and the youth ministry and chose to come and suss this place out because of what you'd heard and stayed because of what you found. And so that's been a key factor for us in terms of our growth, is that our children and youth ministries have been a real emphasis for us. And today we've got Sheena and Amanda, two outstanding people who are our children's workers, and they just do a fantastic job. Our youth ministry, we've got Zane Brown, who's our youth pastor, and Big Josh. Now, Zane this morning has taken a group of young people and he's preaching and leading the service at Tuakau Prezi, which is fantastic. He's actually been doing that quite a bit lately, getting invites around the place to go and preach and take some young people with him. So Zane's out at Tuakau Prezi this morning. And that's Big Josh, who's responsible for our intermediate ministry. And I'll talk about them a little bit later, about some of the exciting things that are starting to happen there. One of the key areas that we recognised also that was really important for the growth and the health of of the church and our caring for one another was our small group ministry. And as I said before, Shelley came on staff to head that up. And it's been really an outstanding kind of work that Shelley's done. We've got something like 25 plus small